So before we begin, I just want to shout out my patrons: Dudley Reiner, Crimson, Consular, 10, Nude Banner, Damacus Whitewood, Jonah Rodriguez, and Ariel Kersey. I'm very much grateful for your support, and if any of you want to support me on Patreon, you can always find the link in the description below. Hey guys, I'm Naya, and welcome back to the channel. So, quick health update: we're still sick. I do feel a tiny bit better, but I do sleep a lot. I'm very, very tired, and my throat still hurts. All of that is still very much going on. My entire body hurts. And yeah, I sleep a lot. That's pretty much it. Hopefully we get better soon. But for today's video, of course, we need to break down YCS Niagara Falls, which just happened on Saturday and Sunday. So it concluded yesterday with Exosister taking first place. Now, I do want to address the fact that Exosister won. I didn't really see any potential in Exosister in the deck as a whole, but Dimension Shifter is one hell of a card, and I want to stress that everybody that's sort of been ranting on social media in the last day or so about how Dimension Shifter is the only reason they won, the card is busted, and Exosister was a really good meta call because the tournament is going to be just swarming with Tearlament. But that doesn't mean that the person that won, solely won because of one card. They still needed to get to that final, which means they had to have a great score in Swiss, and they needed to win top 32, 16, 8, 4, and the finals. So even if your strategy plays a card that's almost a win condition against another strategy, there's nothing wrong with that because you still needed to pilot your strategy to perfection. So that's sort of what I wanted to say when it comes to that. I still don't think Exosister is a great deck, but in this current point in time, it is a very, very good meta call. So with that out of the way, we can slowly make our way through the top 32, 16, 8, and then we're just going to go through a couple deck lists, and that's pretty much going to be it. Nothing that out of the ordinary happened when it comes to the representation, although I was a tiny bit surprised that a Sprite managed to have a higher representation when it comes to top 32. I didn't memorize everything, so I have it over here on the screen, but it was 15 Sprites and 12 Tearlaments, so it wasn't that big of a difference, but we did see in the last couple of events that Tearlaments sort of just took the top slots with conviction. But right now we had 7 Frog Sprites, 3 Runic Frogs, 3 Adventure, and 2 Live Twins. So the Runic edition in the Sprite deck is what really interests me. I've seen a couple deck profiles from the Oceanics Championship, and I think Runics overall are a very neat addition to the deck. And then the Tearlaments were 2 Mono, 2 Danger, 3 Sprite Punk, 3 Sprite, 1 Branded, 1 Frog. So Tearlament has really started to evolve. You have the just hardcore combo mashup of Punk, of Sprite, of everything pretty much. We're gonna go through those deck lists as well. But then some people, after the success of the Oceanics Championship winner with only hand traps and a sort of more pure build, some of them started to play hand traps as well, because when you're not that reliant on dangers, there's not as much RNG, you could say, involved, because you're not risking them hitting your dangers and sort of stopping your plays, and you just have more ways of disrupting your opponent. And then when you sort of establish your Tearlament plays, which might be a bit smaller compared to the combo variant, you still have the Silic, you have all of the fusion summons, so more than likely you are going to be able to stop the opponent with the help of the field spell. Kaleido Heart is incredibly strong, so pair that up with hand traps, and it's also quite consistent because you play all of the names at 3, you play the field spell, you play everything pretty much to get to your Tearlament plays. So when you pair all of that together, I think the deck can be really busted. Now, there's no sort of argument to say which is better, but all of them do seem to do well. So that's really interesting actually, because builds are so different, but you see combo variants doing very well as pure variants. So it's really cool to see. And then you have 2 Exosisters, 2 Flunders, and 1 Mathmech. Flunder has been really seeing some top spots in almost every single event, even though it's less represented, as well as Mathmech. Both of them are sort of not as represented, but they do see occasional tops, so that's something to think about. And then the Exosister, of course, the sort of underdog, you could say, but like I said, it's a very, very good meta call. So yeah, moving on to top 16, we have 8 tier elements, so the conversion rate was a bit different because it did change the tier element having higher representation. So 8 tier element, then you have Sprite, Flunder, and Exosister. So all of them managed to go to top 16 as well, all of the different decks except Mathmech. So Mathmech did stop at the top 32, but overall Mathmech, I think is still a very good choice. It's consistent, it's really strong when it comes to Super Factorio and the Laplacian, just being able to disrupt the opponent very effectively. I think the deck is a good call, and if you pilot it to perfection, I don't think a lot of things can stop you, honestly. Tier element matchup is a bit tough, probably, if you know how to disrupt your opponent. I think you should be fine. So moving on to top 8, like we said, we have a bunch of tier elements, and then Sprite stopped at top 8, didn't make it to top 4. So top 4 was actually 3 tier elements, and then the one Exosister, which managed to win. So let's go over a couple deck lists. So this new version with Punk, with Sprite, with tier element, and also dangers and all of that, you can see it a lot, actually. Like, a lot of people played almost the same build, and from listening to the deck profile, I think the person said that they sort of made the same build together and all of them played it. So we are going to see some recurring stuff. But looking at this deck list, so this is the first one we're going to be looking at, is the 4th place. So basically, Sprite Engine is just 3 names, but you do have Gigantic, you have Elf, so you have access to Sprite all the time, and also you have the red, which obviously Monster Negate is really, really nice. You have the Smashers, which this is the only thing that started to see play sort of before this version with, I think it was Bowden's list from Oceanics that sort of took inspiration from Jesse Cotton's list, if I'm not mistaken. So that's where the credit goes to. And they played Jet and Smashers, which is really cool because at the end of your combo, you can also end on this, which doesn't play into Dark Ruler, and it's an additional way of disruption that you can quite easily establish. So there's that, but this build decided to just expand on everything Sprite, and also they played the Punk stuff, which you have the Chaos Ruler, which of course is a busted extra deck monster, and from Chaos Ruler you can also go to the Fiber, and then through Fiber you get to Baron de Floor. So it's an additional way of milling cards, it's an additional way of disruption, well, negate I should say. You can choose whichever version you want. If you're playing tier element, I'm sure you are going to be testing everything across the board, but it's pretty much personal preference, I think. Punk does feel a bit weird to me personally because you can risk milling it, which is kind of weird, and I realize you're not that reliant on it, so it's just another thing you have in your deck. But I don't know, I would really say it's personal preference. They played Salika 2, Eradicator in the main deck to send it with a Curious and get it back with Griffin. Side deck was, so I saw anti-magic arrows, and I guess in theory, they pretty much said that you stop Smashers because Smashers can hurt you a lot against Sprite, and overall against other matchups, I would say it's useful. I'm not that big of a fan of the card, but I do get the arguments. So again, if you want to test it, there's an option for you. Moving on to the first place deck list, we have Exosister. So it's just Exosister names. It's a couple hand traps, so Ash and also D-Shifter. We have Mystic Mine, we have Dark Ruler. There's also Necro Valley. So Necro Valley I think is an incredible tech because it's busted against tier element, and it's quite interesting that it hasn't seen play up until now. So I really, really like this deck. We see a lot of Gamma in this side deck also. That's something to point out. They also played Zombie World in this side deck, which is also cool. I mean, they have Terraforming in the main, they have Field Spells, so it's like whatever, just play one other one, which is also busted against just monotype decks that are very much focused on that, like Flunder, for example. And they played the Exosister spell, Exosister Carpe Diem, if I pronounce that correctly. I think it's a cool tech. I haven't really seen it in Exosister deck lists, but you do call one name and you prevent that card from disrupting you, so you can pretty much call whatever. And from reading the feature match because we didn't have any live coverage, so we had to read off the feature matches what happened. From reading it, they also used it like during the opponent's turn to prevent them from using Rhinoheart because they searched it. I think it was some sort of interaction like that, and I thought it was really neat because you're actually able to use it during your opponent's turn if you XC summon, so you can really decide on spot what you want to use it against. So I really like that. And then the second place, we have a tiny bit more standard Tearlament, just the Dark Danger Tearlament with a lot of dark extenders. Of course, you have Destrudo, you have Gizmek, you have Zephyros, so all of the different types to easily go into Curious, also Eradicator in the main with that intention to sort of to send it and get it back. You also have Desires in the main. There's Nibiru as well. I think Nibiru was very underrated for the longest time, so it makes sense that people started maining it because they're sort of expecting that opponents are not going to be prepared for it. So that's really cool. And then the Smashers and Jet, which I already mentioned. So double Elf and the Gigantic in the extra deck because 2 Elves are part of the combo to get to the Smashers and everything. 3 Sulik in the main deck. So I have seen 3 Sulik, I think, in one other deck list in top 8. And honestly, like, Sulik is an incredible card. And I understand why you would play 3. It maybe seems like a lot, but it's really, really busted, especially hitting it off of dangers. So yeah, like, I don't know, it's just insane. And the deck list just looks really solid. They played Agave Dragon in the side deck, so to gain life. You have Ghost Reaper, which is also a cool tech. And then the Spooky Dogwood. So this one I sort of meme like on my hand trap tier list because it just seems so bad, but they decided to play it. And honestly, like, it just makes sense. Time rules are what they are, so you should need to be prepared in some kind of way, and that's what they decided to play. So then you have the third place, again, the Tearlament deck, but we mentioned that they played hand traps. So this is the deck list I was talking about, and they played, so they play 15 hand traps, which I think is a sort of a standard number right now. If you are playing hand traps, I don't think you should go below 15. And they chose good ones. Like, I don't think Ash is that impactful, and they decided for DD Crow, Nibiru, and also just targeting negation, which is nice. Impermanence, of course, is the 6th card. It's also really busted. 3 Dynamiscus in the main deck. I think this card is honestly amazing. And they decided to play 3 of each name. So for the most part, what we see in that list, everybody plays 3 of each name. Rhinoheart does seem a bit... like, you can decide if you want to play 3 or maybe less. Either way probably works. But yeah, everything else is pretty much standard. Unending Nightmare in the side deck. Mystic Mine out. Also, Paleozoic Dynamiscus in the main deck. So from what we've seen, most of the players actually had main deck mine outs. So either Smashers or the Dynamiscus. So everybody has some kind of main deck out. And then the top 32 Mathmech, which I mentioned. So they played pretty much the standard Mathmech deck. They did not play... Small World. So Mathmech can be played with or without it. I didn't really test Mathmech to sort of elaborate which would be better, but I did see a lot of different deck lists. Triple Tactics Talent, they did play at 3 in the main deck, but from listening to the deck profile, they actually said that it wasn't that great because people didn't play hand traps. So if you don't run into someone that plays hand traps, I'm sure talents can be quite bad going first. Going second, maybe you're able to do a couple things. Then they played Signet Crosswipe as a Mystic Mine out because you're able to chip out a monster, and you're also able to destroy a card. So even if you draw going first, it's also really nice. So in the side deck, we see Zuking Alpha, which is cool, and Silent Graveyard. So this is a tech I don't have on my tech cards tier list, which is really bad. I need to include it next time. But Silent Graveyard, being able to turn off graveyard effects, it's really, really strong. And you're also able to use it during your turn. So if you know your opponent is doing some kind of Hoffiness plays, or if you're just going second, it's also really, really busted. Again, top 8 Tearlament with hand traps and the super polymerization, 2 Dynamiscus, and then they also play the Supreme Steam Air. So it's another normal summon, can be also used on special. Basically just pretty much the same as Reinhardt, just sends an Aqua. Then they also have Bahamut Shark and Toad in the extra deck. Underworld Goddess, also a cool way to get rid of some things that will be sort of hard to get rid of. Skill Drain also in the side. We see a lot of Gamma. I keep mentioning that, but almost everybody plays Gamma in the side deck. Also Cosmic, D-Barrier. So just quite standard stuff. And then top 8, this is the deck list I mentioned that they also played 3 Salik. So this is the deck list with Branded in High Spirits. So Branded in High Spirits was also played in the second place deck list from the Oceanics Championship, and together with D3S Frog, you're able to reveal a tier element, you're able to send the extra deck monster, send the tier element, trigger the tier element, and right now, like, the card is really nice, also plays really well around Joel if you do it in draw phase. So this is cool because some people do side draw from what I've seen. But I think this card is, like, it's nice and all, but it's going to get even better when the buy-set cards come out, because you need to have a monster on the field for them to be able to sort of DD Crow your monster. So with this spell, of course, you won't have a monster on field if you use it immediately when you start your turn. So you effectively play around that. So that's really, really nice in my opinion. Overall, this deck list just seems solid and also quite standard as a combo variant. And then also side deck, Deck Devastation Virus, everything else we've seen already. And then we also have Sprite together with Deep Sea Diva. So it's just Sprite, Frog Stuff, Hand Traps, Deep Sea Diva. So a very, very standard Sprite list with Hand Traps. So Double Smashers in the main deck, which is also really cool. Good Mystic Mine out. Yeah, side deck also very standard. D-Shifter in the side. So Sprite is also nice because they are able to side D-Shifter. And not every single deck can do it. Right now we have Exosister, Flunder. Sprite can side it. Sword Soul can side it if you're still playing Sword Souls. So Shifter overall, just an amazing card against Tier Element. And then again, the top 8 deck list. So this is, I think... No, it's not the same as the one we featured, like as the first one, but it does have Sprite, it does have Punk, but they played 3 Sprite Blue, so it's a tiny bit bigger Sprite engine. Also Droplet in the main deck. Like, Droplet is really nice against Dweller because in the mirror match you just suffer if you get Dweller. And then Dweller in the side deck actually. And everything else is almost the same as in the first deck list. And then Flunder as well, it's pretty standard, but they decided to play 2 Empen, and I wanted to mention this because in the deck profile they actually said that they played 3 Empen, I think, or considered 3 Empen, because you don't lose that hard to impermanence on Eaglin if you hard draw Empen. So there's that. And they also played the Simorg package, and they mentioned that it's just almost a necessary thing to just have more power in your deck to be able to go through boards easily and just establish stuff easily. And then side deck is just the Ultimate Slayer. So nobody pretty much sides this card. It's really interesting to see. But they said probably because you really don't have space. But since in the Flunder extra deck you have a lot of space, they said that Ultimate Slayer performed like incredibly well. They said it overperformed. They said it almost every single time they played someone. So it's cool to hear, you know, because it is a new card and it's cool to see it have some kind of use. So also Unending Nightmare. Oh my god, I need to sneeze. Okay. So Unending Nightmare in the side deck as well. I love seeing this card sort of pop up and just be useful. And then for the last one, I wanted to cover the Attack of the Giant card. Now this picture says winner. I'm pretty sure that the event coverage blog said that they got 3rd place. Doesn't really matter. They did win a giant card. And it's Scareclaw Tier Element. So it's a small Scareclaw package. Also Visa Starfrost, which you are able to search with a Tier Element field spell. In case you didn't know, it's not just for tier limits. And then you also have the Scareclaw field spell, of course, and Adventure, as well as a Magician's Souls together with Illusion of Chaos. So really, really interesting deck list. It's cool to see that it was actually successful at that tournament. So just really, really nice to see. The entire extra deck is pretty much standard, just looking at it. You, of course, have the Link one, the Scareclaw Link one, and everything else is quite normal. The side deck, however, they played Spiritualism, which is a very cool optimistic mind. I'll put the picture of the card up here on the screen. I've heard a lot of talk about this card in the last week or so. They also play Kurikara. It's good against Sprite, but it's still a bit iffy to me. I don't know, maybe it sees more play, but this is the only deck list we have seen that actually played this. Also Zuking Alpha, Eradicator, just everything else is quite standard, but this entire deck list is really interesting, so I definitely wanted to cover it. If you're maybe thinking of picking up Scareclaw and just pairing it up with Tearlament, or just playing it with something else, you can pretty much do whatever you want. But yeah, pretty much that's going to be it. It's really interesting that Exosister won, but it's not that unexpected. Overall, the event, I think, had a little more than 800 players, so it was a solid event. I'm very sad that we didn't get the live coverage. So from what I've heard, the venue is quite small, so it wouldn't be that doable. So if that's true, I guess it makes sense, but still, it would be really, really nice to see. And yeah, let me know what you think of the event and of the top performing decks, and if you maybe played there, how did you do, what did you play, what did you face? And yeah, of course, if you liked the video, like it, sub to the channel, check out all of the social media, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.